Are there ways that people can tell, or rather, what are ways that people can tell if they're being attacked by demons? Because I think, people think it's going to be this violent thing where like a demon shows up and like throws them against a wall. But I mean, there's a lot more mild versions of what, satanic activity in a sense can look like when it's being waged against somebody.
Hmm. I, I first would have to say that not every thought you think is your own. That's the first place to understand where the war for the mind is one of the. Oh, here's a book. I haven't showed this one before. Here's one I've never showed. This is Gregory Reed. He's another survivor as well, among many other hats that he has worn in his life. But this is called The War of the Ages. And this is a complete scriptural guide to confronting and defeating Satan's kingdom. He has another book called Nobody's Angel, which is his testimony. And brutal. But Gregory Reed is also like with I encountered him through the black.com and Tom Dunn and Jared Cressman as well. But he says we are living in an unprecedented time of spiritual darkness. War of the Ages is a comprehensive scriptural guide to spiritual warfare. Is the devil real? What about demons, angels? What does the Bible say about these things? How can we fight and overcome the power of darkness in today's world? Written by Dr. Gregory Reed, this book contains nearly 400 pages of scriptural and practical insights from 45 years of experience battling the forces of evil. Solid truth and real stories, spiritual warfare for the next generation. That book, for those of you that want to study up on this stuff more than just a cursory 5 or 10 minute answer that I can give, these books were like where I cut my teeth on a lot of this stuff, y'all, to try to be better equipped to do it. Russ Disdar's book called Expelling the Darkness is another one that's critical for it. But discerning thoughts is a critical component because the vast majority of all the war that's ever going to be waged is going to be the one in your mind. It's going to be the one that the voices that happen between your own head. And I know I'm not talking about like schizophrenic kind of voices. I'm talking about like it sounds like you in there. It's the same thinking, thought sounding voice that you have when you're thinking about like, hey, do you remember that time when you were 15 years old and you stole a car and you just like went for a joyride with your friends? Like those little memories and thoughts that come fleeting through during the course of a day. Like in the scriptures, they call these things fiery arrows. At times, there's like these other thoughts that you suddenly think through your head and you're like, what was that? That was something totally different. That other thought, you can have your thoughts, you can have the world's thoughts, you can have the devil, and you can have the flesh. Like there is a many voices. You can have the Holy Spirit. Like there is lots of voices that can be at any given time coming into your head. They used to talk about this stuff very openly in our culture and in our society, but it's only in modernity through this like God of humanism that we try to reduce everything down to the five senses. If we can't touch it, taste it, smell it, or it's like if we can't experience it through those things, it doesn't exist. That reductionist scientific like religion has made people lose track of like there are spirits flying around everywhere in a spiritual realm that we don't physically have the eyes to see right now, but they influence us. They inspire us like a spirit coming down into our minds. This is where we get the word muse for museum, music. This is because they believe those spirits would empower people, come upon people, and give them inspiration. And so you can be inspired by various different forms of spirits. Discerning of spirits is paramount to being able to identify what are the symptoms of demonic spirits, demonic oppression, and predominantly the manifestations that they are is they are going to the fruit of them is how you can identify them best. And that's where do those thoughts lead you? Are those thoughts leading you towards life and love and happiness and joy and like the fruits of the spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, like above these there's no Torah. Like there is these fruits of the good spirits, and then there is a fruit of the wicked spirits, and the fruits of the lesser, envy and greed and selfishness, like hatred, murder, violence, like strife. Like there are these other fruits of those thought processes, and a lot of times those are literally like arrows flying across our minds at any given time. And it's like when we start to pick up on one of them and tune into it, like lust, when it like first we get a temptation that can draw us away into lust, and lust when it gives birth to sin, and sin gives birth to death at the end of it. And so there's a chain of events that you've got to track down where you are in your thought process and your logic to identify, is this thought even coming from me or is this coming from the enemy? Like sometimes y'all, you think some super dark stuff. And I know you do because I'm like one of you. You know what I mean? And sometimes that stuff is so unbelievably dark, so unbelievably depraved. And you're like, I would never think about it. Like I would never look at that person and think that stuff. But sometimes it's there, and that's not from you, you know? And it's really important that you understand that that's an opportunity for you to gird up the loins of your mind. That means like armor up, son, because you're in a battle right now. And if you can defeat that thought, you can have freedom from it. But demonic symptoms of demonic stuff outside of like just the thought level of life. You can experience physiological symptoms of it. A lot of times it does come on in the form of headaches, like brain fog and nausea. Those are big indicators that there's a demonic oppression that can be taking place. Like when you walk into a environment where there has been a door open to the enemy, like a portal is a better way to say it. When there has been major stuff that's happened in an area, like horrible abuse, sin, like bloodshed. If there's been bloodshed, this is why like blood rituals are used, because when you spill the blood, it opens a door for these other spirits to enter in. That's why they do this, y'all. They do these rituals not for nothing. They're doing it to dial a phone book to the spiritual realm of darkness. And it's a real thing, y'all. Like, this is why there used to be less than, I think, 8,000 self-reporting witches in the United States of America in the early 2000s. Within a few years, it was up to 350,000. And now you're dealing with millions of people that are self-reporting witches. This is not something you dabble with, y'all. Like, these spirits, when you start playing in these rituals, even if you think it's white witchcraft, even if you think, like, I'm only using this stuff for good, I never weaponize it, I never use it for evil. You must understand, you are dealing with other spirits that have a different agenda than what you do. And their intention is to deceive you, to get you to be complicit in an agenda, to conquer your mind, to win you over, to give them complete power and control. Those spirits, when you do these rituals, it opens a doorway. And if that door is not shut, it literally is like a door that's always open. This is why when sometimes you walk into a place, you feel like, oh, you feel gross. You feel gross. You feel uncomfortable. People that are more spiritually discerning will say, like, I've got bad vibes in here. Like, it doesn't feel good in here. Like, people that go on these ghost hunting and go into these places of hauntings and stuff like this, they're walking into areas where those doors are very strongly open, and nothing holds a door open longer than murder. When blood is spilled and a life is taken, that door, that blood is crying out day and night, demanding justice. And when that door has been propped open, this is why that presence can stay so powerfully. This is why something called immurement is used, like in the London Bridge where I went. They literally, when they brought that London Bridge from London and brought it over here, when they're digging out the foundations, they're like, oh, we found 80 bodies and a bunch of children. Whoops. Like, this is in their public histories. They put human beings inside the building stones of buildings in order to permanently curse the place and leave the door open for occult witchcraft and sorcerers to go in and do ritual magic and have a door open all the time. That's why some of these places literally will only be rectified when they are destroyed. That's why Jericho happened. In Jericho's walls, they were sacrificing their children, not killing them. They were building stones around them while they're alive. So they died in there of starvation, dehydration, or from fear, literally. That's why. So they open up these buildings. And in Africa and other places around the world, this is still exactly how it's practiced. When they build new businesses, they literally go and sacrifice a child at the foundations of it and then put the cornerstone of the building on top of this. Benjamin Franklin, everyone worships and is like a godhead in that school of slavery. They're like, you got to listen to this amazing inventor. He was part of this Hellstone Club. And when they opened up the foundation of his house, what did you think they found in there? 30 bodies, more than 30 bodies. They just talked about those ones that they're like, well, we had to try to work on this archaeological area. And they started finding burnt and sacrificed bodies under the foundations of his house, because this is what it is, y'all. Like, when they go read The Creature from Jekyll Island, you guys, like, understand where the Federal Reserve and where these people, they literally went out to this place called Jekyll Island with the most powerful, influential people to come up with, conceive this ideology for getting America under a centralized banking system. And they literally went into a cottage that had an altar stone that had been used for human sacrifice, and that literal from this tribe of giants that lived on that island, where they would slaughter and sacrifice children. They sat over the living room that sat on top of that stone and conceived and drew up the Federal Reserve there. This is why you're dealing with magicians and sorcerers at every level. These are the guys we're literally battling with, and why we try to contend against this stuff from a spiritual component, because that's what empowered this stuff. That's who gave people these ideas. This is where people got downloads to build weapons of warfare. Like, this is literally, like, I did security consulting for guys that were going and talking on the astral plane to these other beings to get technological downloads for making storage drives. Like, this is where, like, why people go to Burning Man, and these people that are in the tech industry are into all these ayahuasca and all these spirit drugs. They're trying to hack into that spirit realm in order to be able to communicate with these beings to get in downloads of information. This is stuff you have to get out of your life. You have to purge this stuff utterly out of your life. You have to have this. A sober mind is critical in dealing with this stuff, because when you start to weigh into this, it's all over the place, y'all. Our society in the last 50 years has been intentionally driven towards this re-enchantment, towards opening up these demonic gates, opening these doors to these demons and these other spirits, greater powers and principalities. That's why it's getting so much darker out there, y'all, because they're bringing in the gods. They're bringing in these ancient ones. They have this ancient hatred for people. That's why there's darkening of people, because we're not fighting back. We're not taking the authority that we have to cast out these spirits, to command demons out of people and to set them free. Like, we're not walking in that authority. Like, we're not waging the war we were made for. Like, we were made to fight back against this stuff. And you know what? People are getting lulled into a sweet surrendered slumber in the churches by and far, who aren't equipping them with the information that they need, pertinent pieces of information to fight against this. And it comes by knowing the word. So if you're a derelict on duty, if you're asleep on the wall, you go to treasonous courts, in the military. If you're found asleep on the wall, they literally will kick you out and throw you into prison for doing that. One time they can kick you out. One time. And instead, we have all these watchmen that say we're pastors and we're the guys who are vanguards on the church. And they're not crying out when they see the blood that is out there. They are not crying out when they see this army invading. And they instead are opening the door and letting them into their churches. They're letting them come and infiltrate. That's where Satan goes into most. He targets the greatest enemies that are in our army. He targets the strongest people that could put up the best fight. That's why DID is what it is, y'all. That's why your survivors have been targeted from your youth. Some of you guys, your life has been a crap show from the day of your birth, because you were born to be the warrior of warriors. You were born to be what's called a Gibborim, the mighty men and mighty women of valor, the special forces of Yahweh's hit teams against the kingdom of darkness. And you know what? The enemy had a little foresight into your destiny. And you know what? He tried to take you out as early as he possibly could and ruin you and destroy you and shatter you and compartmentalize you and keep you from ever fulfilling that calling that you had on your life. But you know what? When you start to cast off this demonic spirits, when you start to get those chains set free, man, you are a weapon to be reckoned with. And I'm telling you, I have seen some of the most mighty and ferocious warriors of the kingdom of Yahuwah ever in my life when survivors turn the tables, because you know what? They trained their weapons. Big mistake, son. Should have left us alone. Terrible idea. Terrible idea. And I'm telling you, that's why I'm so passionate about these other cures, you guys, because I'm serious. Your brain, your intellect is so much more capable. You're so much more capable of anything you could even think and imagine, when the Father begins to set you free and begins to give you everything you need in order to do this and fight this good fight. Man, we can kill everyone. I am telling you, I'm not talking about just the physical corporal bodies of these bad guys. I'm talking about destroying the doubt and the despair and the depravity that's been consuming us and keeping us from our destinies. And that's what we were made to do. And we need all of you to fight this fight with us. You were made to fight against this. You're not made to be a sleeper cell for the kingdom of darkness. You are made to absolutely annihilate the works of wickedness everywhere you find them.
Amazing. I love those encouraging words that you give. I think everybody's always like, I can't wait for Nathan to have one of these monologues. Like, he pumps me up. I love how hype you get about it. One thing that
Fired
you,
up. Fire
yeah,
him up, man.